Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Lavish Conversations. I'm your host, Mika, and I'm just waiting on my guest. We are featuring today Lola Love. You can read her bio if you have not already, but she'll be with us in just a few seconds or a few moments, rather. She's having a little technical difficulties. So, Lavish Conversations, in case you're new with us, is based on the premise that everybody has to go from existing to living or keep existing. You make that conscious choice at some point in your life. And some people make that decision more than one time. And so this conversation is all of my conversations are with inspiring people about why existing is just not enough. So our conversation with Lola is going to be coming up soon. We're just going to give everybody a chance to join us in the waiting room. And I just wanted to greet you all. Thank you for joining me. I'm Mika, as I said, your host. Let me try to help her out here. Give me one moment. For those just coming into the group, good afternoon. Welcome to Lavish Conversations. I'm just waiting on our guest, who's Lola Love. She's having a little technical difficulties. So we're being patient, of course. Did you all get to check out our last conversation? It's available on YouTube, our YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed already, it's called Lavish Conversations on YouTube. You also can join the Facebook group if you're not already in the Facebook group. If you're on YouTube, join the Facebook group, and that is Lavish Conversations. It's a public group, so you can subscribe. Make sure you like the videos. Go back and view the other conversations. We've had some great conversations. We had Nikki Nanos. We had Devi. We had Dr. Rhonda Wood. That was a great conversation, definitely. So make sure you go back and check those out. Tyrone Chase. Last week we did one with Robin Wallace, who's a data scientist. Hold on just a moment for me. All right. Again, as I said, we're just waiting on our guest, Lola Love. She had a few technical difficulties, but she should be with us in just one moment. I appreciate your patience. As I said, also, in case you didn't catch it, make sure you check out the YouTube channel, Lavish Conversations, subscribe, like the videos, comment, and you can comment, of course, today with any questions you have during our conversation for our guest. Okay, I'm just going to add her in here.
Hi.
Good morning, Lola, or good afternoon, rather.
Good
How are
afternoon,
you?
sister. How are you?
I'm good, beautiful.
I was having trouble getting to the live, but we here. We here now.
As I was telling everybody, this is Lola Love, our featured guest for today. She is an author, she's a mother, well, I'll let her tell you about herself, but we're here for a lavish conversation. As you know, lavish conversations are conversations with inspiring people about why existing is just not enough. We only get one life to live, and why exist when you could truly live and live a purposeful life, with intention. So, Lola, let's start off with just tell our guests a little bit about yourself. Who are you?
Lola Love. I am a sickle cell advocate. I have sickle cell myself. I've been an advocate for about 10 years now, but I've always had inspirations to help people. That was always my thing. I never was happy unless I was like helping somebody else. So I always had a real helping mentality coming up for all of my years. But for the most part, yes, I'm a mom. I'm a sickle cell advocate. I am a sickle cell warrior. I am a wife. I'm a mom to be right now.
Yeah,
So I have
congratulations, by the
a
way.
dynamics to me.
So, with you having sickle cell, I know it easily you could have slipped into existing, but not just sickle cell. You've had other, traumatic difficulties that you've run into, life been life
Yeah,
and early on in your life, you had to overcome a lot of things that a lot of other people didn't, have never had to face really, let alone, at such a young age. So in doing that, do you recall a time when you consciously made the decision to make that shift from existing into living? Like, what made you become the sickle cell warrior and an advocate as opposed to just a patient?
that is a very good question. That is a very good question. So when my mom passed away, I was in a really, really low place, like a really low place. Like
And when your mom passed away, you were
I
12 or
I was 15 years old when my mom
15. Okay.
and she passed away at home, and it was very traumatic. We had to, sit in there with her after she's already passed away, so you can just imagine what that's like for a kid,
Right.
you know. So after she passed away, I was in a really, really low place. And it was so much pressure, it was so much everything was going on because I was a senior in high school. My prom was here, my graduation was here, but I had no mom, and that was
Right.
the biggest support of my whole life. So it put me in a really, really low place. And I was in that low place for a while.
Hmm.
And to the point like I was just like staying with random friends. I was just hanging out all night, just partying. I did not care about taking care of my body, eating healthy.
Right.
I didn't care about me having sickle cell. I didn't the way I should have.
Right. You
Um,
started existing.
I just started completely just existing. I was just in a computer mode. I was just
Right.
they just in routine, but not really here.
Hmm.
Um, and it got to the point where one day I went to a doctor's appointment and I just snapped. And my doctor was looking at me so crazy, and he was like, "Well, we're just gonna put you in the hospital, and we are going to you can talk to someone about it, but we're going to treat you for your depression." And you know, I was obviously in a sickle cell crisis too at the time, so
Right.
they put me not in the hospital, but on the psych ward.
Hmm.
And you,
Hmm.
people have depression, that's their easiest go to. When Black people are mentally in a dark place, that's their immediate go to. And it's so at the time I was so young, it was like they told me that I would just be in the hospital and I would just talk to somebody about it. They never told me I was going to go to the psych ward. They would take my phone, my shoes. It felt like I was in jail.
Right.
You know,
Right. Which I'm sure might not help all the time in the instance when you already feel a bit of anxiety. So
right?
feeling like you've now been imprisoned is not quite what you were looking for, huh?
No, just looking for maybe somebody to come to my room and talk to me like a therapist.
Right.
Nobody,
Right.
nobody even recommended therapy, and my mom just died.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like, and that's another thing. Black people, we got to go to therapy. Therapy helps.
Right. I'm so glad that we now have this mental health, consciousness wave
Yeah.
that's been, taking over because it's so necessary. And I think of myself, even of the traumas that I've endured or other people I know.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, nobody says, hey, maybe you should go to therapy, not back then anyway, now thankfully, yes, people do, we have
Right.
all these different resources. So, but
Right.
so what made you make the shift though?
So once I got out of the psych ward, I said, okay, because I was always in and out of the hospital. I was always out partying. I never really cared for my body the way I should.
Right.
I wasn't working out. I wasn't doing anything that I was supposed to do to help prolong my life and to keep me out of crisis.
Yeah.
And I was drinking and everything. I did not care. And I got tired. One day I went to the hospital. After that, I went into another crisis after that, and I was in there for like 3 weeks. And one of the nurses said, "What's going on?" Like she was like, "You're always here. Are you struggling with housing?" Like she thought I was homeless because I was always in and out the hospital.
Oh, uh-huh. Yeah.
And I just broke down, and I said, "I have to make a change because this is how people are looking at me,
Right.
what they think of me."
Yeah.
And it made me not feel good about myself. And I was like, Deniqua, like, where are you? Where's your head at? You're better than this.
Mm-hmm.
So I always knew, like, I wanted to be a mom and I wanted to have kids and stuff. And the way that I was going, I wasn't going to do that. I wasn't going to do none of that. So
Right. And
just
if you did, what type of mom would you be to these kids?
right, right. I would be no good in that shape. That
Right.
me.
Right.
Um, but that was the day after I got out the hospital. After the nurse asked, "Was I homeless and what was I going through?" And she was a nurse who always dealt with me because they always put sickle cell patients on the same floor.
Mm-hmm.
So she knew me very well. And when I broke down, I was like, I really sat in the hospital that night, and I told myself, when I get out, everything's changed. I'm changing the way I eat. I'm changing the way I think. I'm getting
Mm-hmm.
in my books like I'm supposed to, like, because I was just on a limb of just not caring. I was
Mm-hmm.
in no place, and I had lost my biggest support system. And after I lost my mom, it seemed like the whole family fell apart. You
Right. Right. Oftentimes that happens.
Yeah, and me and my brothers and sisters, we're not close like we should be. Aunts and uncles, we're not tight like we used to be.
Right.
It kind of the family kind of fell apart, and that was a really big adjustment for me at 15.
Yeah, I'm sure. So look, that was one shift, right? And
Mhm.
my premise is this, that not only do we do that shift one time, but oftentimes we have to do it multiple times in our lives, right? And so you keep shifting again because you go then into existing again, right? But now in a different form of existence, but you're still just existing, right?
Mhm.
So you found a reason to live again and you got yourself back on track. You started eating healthy. You started, focusing again and growing and evolving, right? So you shifted back into living, but then at a certain point, what made you shift again? Because that's still not what made you be who you are now. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
That girl at 15 had to do another shift.
Yeah. Um. So after I had my son, after
Hmm.
my first son, I was there. It was like, okay, you're a mom now. Stuff is different. You have a person to live for. You have a person looking up to you. You have a whole human being that you have to raise. And
Right.
this is like, I had him when like COVID first dropped. I was in the store 8 months, 9 months pregnant, and the phones went off for the COVID. Everybody phone got the COVID notification at the.
Oh my gosh.
It felt like something in a movie. It felt like
Right.
everybody phone going off and everybody start panicking.
Right.
The world
That's
shut.
something we can never even fathom.
Yeah, so at that time I was like, oh my goodness, like what kind of world am I about to bring,
Exactly.
world am I about to bring this child into?
My firstborn, right.
And so, it and he's a black boy, and all of these other things, and cops are killing us 90 going.
At the beginning of COVID is also when everything, like the height of so many racial tensions happened. That's when George Floyd was killed, and
Brown and all of those other.
yeah,
So it was a really oh my goodness, it was a really nerve-wracking thing. When I had my son, I was so in fear of sharing that precious child with the world because I knew what the world was.
yeah.
So it was really, really hard for me to
It's crazy you mentioned that fear, because that fear gave you the opportunity to again
yeah.
just say, I'm going to exist in this fear, in
Mm-hmm.
this space of, anxiety. And that's is, I mean, I think it's amazing that you did not. I mean, all of us as a society that made it through, the pandemic and stuff, that's a amazing feat in itself.
Mm-hmm.
But for you to do it, pregnant with your first child without slipping back into that depression too,
Yeah.
because like you said, you didn't have your mom
Yeah.
at that time, and it's a integral time in your life.
Yeah. So that's what made me um level up again. And after I had my son, it was just like, okay, this is what I was made for, this, being a mom, and just I always love to help people.
Right.
To have to raise a person is the most help you'll ever give,
How about that?
ever give.
How about that?
Um, it's a huge responsibility, but it's definitely something that made my life feel like it's worth living.
Right.
Because I for a while I just kind of lost hope because the doctors told me at a young age I couldn't even have kids. So
Right.
until 28, I didn't get pregnant. I didn't even have to take a plan B. I never got pregnant at all.
And
You-
then suddenly,
I was okay, maybe they're right, and I kind of started to lose hope.
mm-hmm,
And then I got pregnant with my son. And I was like, you know what? I knew them doctors, they put fear in us at small ages when we're diagnosed with such chronic illnesses.
mm-hmm,
Uh, and we kind of live in that fear until we break ourselves out of it, honestly.
right,
And if we don't, then we'll stay in that fear. And I seen some of my sickle cell warriors get hooked on pills, or really, really depressed to the point they just ended up not even caring about themselves, not taking care of themselves, and just dwindling and dying away because it's a mind thing, but it's a physical body thing too. So
right,
it's not doing what your mind needed to do, or what it wanted to do, or not even the wants, because we can't even get to the needs. It's hard to even sometimes when in crisis, it's hard to even get up and go take a shower.
right.
So, but if you're always living in that, then imagine how many showers you miss.
Now, can you explain for people, for our viewers that don't know, what does a sickle cell crisis feel like? What does it look like?
Um, so it's when our blood starts to sickle, and
So
regular,
they're normally shaped in your blood cells.
but our blood when it sickles, it's kind of shaped like a moon, like a banana almost,
Mm-hmm,
and it causes pain because the round blood cells, it's easy to carry the oxygen through your body. But
mm-hmm,
when they shape like a banana, they get stuck and they get clumped up, and that's what the sickling is. So
mm-hmm,
it can happen anywhere in your body.
mm-hmm.
I've had
What does it feel like as a patient to experience one of those crises?
I've gotten in a car accident where my car was totaled,
Mm-hmm,
and I got hit by a pickup truck head on. He ran a red light. He was drunk. It was like 2 o'clock, and he hit me head on. Both airbags came out, and we ended up having to go to the hospital on my friend's birthday. And That car accident, being hit by a pickup truck head on,
Mm-hmm.
doesn't hurt as bad as a sickle cell crisis. So it's tremendous pain. It's pain that is unreal. And the thing is that it happens at any given time. It can happen at any time. And sometimes it seems to happen at the worst times, when it's
I'm
your
sure.
birthday and you got plans, or, it could be anything. And a sickle cell crisis comes on and you can't participate. It ruins the party sometimes.
You just feel sudden pain that comes on.
Yeah, well, a lot of times the pain is just onset. It happens.
Excuse me.
Go from feeling good to feeling bad in 20 minutes
Mhm.
because you're stressed out, because you're catching a cold, or because you're just going into crisis.
Okay. I just wanted you to explain that for people who have never experienced it or witnessed it, just so that they have a little familiarity. Um, and then that is genetic as well.
Yeah,
So you have to be vigilant about that as well, as far as not only who you have kids with, because then it heightens your chances of having sickle cell anemia versus the trait and all of those great things. But
yeah.
yeah.
So, and that's another thing. A lot of people don't know that they have the trait.
Hmm.
But
My,
you
I
don't.
have kids with the trait. Some of my kids.
Yeah, you don't even get sick a whole lot with the trait. Two of my siblings have the trait and they're fine.
Hmm.
They're fine. But me and my brother who has the trait, we're always in and out the hospital. You know,
Hmm.
mom had the trait and my dad had the trait, but they did not know and they made me.
Hmm.
My son has the trait, so I have to raise him to be very mindful of, listen, if you fall in love with this person, you have to make sure, because if
Yeah.
you're a baby, you're going to produce your mom, and your mom is always sick, and it's hard, you know, to be a disabled parent or to have a disabled child is a task.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. On top of the other things that life presents on its own already.
Right, right.
So you are an author as well.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I usually well, I haven't finished my book up yet, but I started writing it. And I just felt like I had to share my story from my point of view because I feel like it can help so many other.
Hmm.
When I was going to school,
Excuse me. Sorry.
no, you're fine, honey. I didn't have a lot of friends that had sick parents,
Right.
so my friends did things that I didn't get to experience
Hmm.
because I had to grow up a lot faster. But I feel like that is something that either sick parents or parents that's passed away.
Right.
Um, that's a trauma that we kind of just don't really acknowledge.
Hmm.
It's like they're with their auntie, they'll be okay, or they raised by their grandmama, they'll be okay.
Right.
And that's great that we do have those. Sometimes we do have that support, but sometimes we don't.
Right.
So um, I'm I'm very particular, so it's gonna. I keep, just I want it to be perfect. That's
Right.
what I'm doing. So I really wanted to be perfect, and I wanted to genuinely tell my story.
Hmm. I can understand that. Well,
Yeah.
you don't want to work too hard on perfection that you end up going into procrastination.
Yes. Yes. You're right. You are absolutely right.
Now, talking about your children, how do you transfer that mission of living a purpose-driven life?
I'm sorry, honey. Could you say that question again? My fiance phone's going
Oh,
off.
you're fine. I said, so with your children, how do you transfer that that mission of living a purpose-driven life and making sure that they are, not just existing and that they're not dimming their light. They're really, living for them and really making the most out of their lives every day.
So like with my daughter, she's 13.
Mm-hmm.
And she's my bonus daughter. So I love her kind of more than I love the own child, the child that I actually birthed. She was girl, so we kind of have that thing.
Yeah.
And I try to allow her to see me live that, a purposeful life. And she's old enough to understand certain conversations, so I have very honest and open conversations with her. Um, but I also let my work and what I do reflect living a purposeful life. And with that,
Right.
because it can be one thing to just preach it and say it, but it's another thing to actually show it. And her father is the same way. He's very into helping the black community.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Umar, he has his own gun club. All these grown men and grown women look up to him. He's a leader, and I love him for that same reason. So uh,
Mm-hmm.
I think her being able to see both of us living, two parents living a purposeful life, you know, I think that'll transpire, transfer to our kids, to our future.
Right.
I think,
Definitely.
you know, he see us dress up and we go out with our guns to protect Dr. Umar and we're in our all black and people tell us thank you when we, do funeral details for people who were killed by the cops. Like Jalen Walker, he was shot 190 times. We did his funeral. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and I think them being able to see things like that and to see the way we go out and we help people in the community. There was this lady having a mental health crisis. She was down at a all black kind of like meeting at Freedom Square in
Mm-hmm.
Washington D.C. And it was so many black people and it was this positive thing, but this lady ended up crashing her car, having a mental health crisis,
Mm-hmm.
and it seemed like nobody seen it. And the crowd was maybe at least 900 people.
Mm-hmm.
It was a very big crowd, a very big. And I went over to it because I kept looking, and then the police pulled up, and I was like, "Hold on, I noticed a black person in this car. I can see that, but I can't see whether it's a male or female." So police interaction, it's kind of crazy. But me and my fiance were going to go over and help this lady to, move her car out the street, ask her was she okay, talk to her,
Right.
make sure the police don't mistreat her. And it was so many other black people around, but sometimes just turn a blind eye to those things. So I think our kids being able to see things like that,
Mm-hmm.
who we are, where our hearts are actually at.
Right.
I think that'll give that off to them. That'll give that same energy off to the kids.
So tell me something. What about yourself, your current life today, are you most proud about?
Um,
About you.
about me.
Yeah. Like looking from the outside and if you were that 15-year-old little girl, what are you most proud about? What is she looking at?
My character, who I am. Who I am is a genuine person. You're always going to find genuine in me. You're never going to find ill intended.
Mm-hmm.
I'm proud to say I never bust out a black man's windows, or I never called the police on a black man, or I never called the police on another black person unless it was for the ambulance, not the actual police.
Right.
So uh I think, yeah, my character. I'm gonna have to say my character. I am who I say I am. I am who I look like on Facebook or Instagram. I am the woman with sickle cell who shares her story.
Mm.
And I'm very, very open about my story,
Right.
because some people will just social media can have some people just sharing the best parts of their life.
Right.
But when you live with this illness, you have good parts and you have low parts too.
Yeah.
So I share from the low to the good and everything in between, because we're not perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And these apps will have us thinking that we're competing with somebody who only shows a picture perfect portion of their life.
Right.
So I try to be, or not even try to be, I am exactly who I say I am, exactly who I look like on social media.
Right. All day, every day.
Yes, all day.
So, okay, with regard to, as we're wrapping up, kind of, with regard to not just existing, but living, what is on your heart that you feel you're led to share with our audience today?
Um, oh, support one another, love one another, be kind to one another. Because I think us as Black people, we always get stigmatized for not being able to stick together, or not being able to work together or help each other. And sometimes it's like, I love my Black people, but I don't agree with everything that the ways that we have. So I feel like we can help each other more. We can love each other more. You know, we can support each other more.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people, and a lot of people can call me on a daily basis for a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it be cousins, whether it be friends, they know that I'm the friend or the cousin or the sister that they can depend on.
Mm-hmm.
Support is very easy.
Right.
Just sharing something that is positive, that I'm doing is enough support. Just to tell somebody else about what I do is enough support.
I
So
love that. Definitely.
I think we have to definitely support each other more.
Yeah. And speaking of support, sharing, support us by liking the video,
Yes,
share the video.
video.
Make sure you inbox me, DM me, comment underneath the video if you have any suggestions for other Lavish conversations that you want to see us have. Lola Love, where can they reach you? Where can people follow your journey and see what's going on with you?
My Instagram is Miss Lola Love, and my Facebook is Miss Lola Love.
Okay, and she'll put that in the chat underneath in
Yes,
case you all want to find her.
yes.
Make sure you follow, make sure you look into and support sickle cell advocacy. It is a very, very serious illness in our community, and a lot of people definitely are not aware of, all of the trauma that people have to endure with it. Thank you, Alvin Reader said good points. I appreciate you all for tuning in. As I said, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, Lavish Conversations, conversations with inspiring people about why existing is just not enough. Make sure you get out here and live today because you only get one life to live and you are not an option. Thank you so much for joining me, Lola.
Oh, thank you for having me,
You
honey.
were a great, great guest. It was my pleasure.
Oh my goodness, you were a great host. It was my pleasure as well, sis. And anytime you want me to come back, I'm here. I'm here.
Thank you so much. We'll have you back for the book and the new bundle.
Yes, I can't wait.
All right.
All
Thank
right.
you, everybody.